It's episode 51 of Aaron and Patricia. My name is Aaron.
My name is Patricia.
And you join us on the 7th of March of 2021. So coming up in the show, we're going to talk about the 1.9 trillion coronavirus relief plan passed through last night. We're going to talk about some COVID-19 related news as well. Also, Facebook will end a ban on political ads. Also, six Dr. Seuss books will be discontinued. Super Nintendo World has been delayed. We're going to tell you about that as well. We're going to tell you about what TCM are doing in regards to cancel culture. We're also going to give you our thoughts on Paramount Plus. Disney's new animated film, Rio and the Last Dragon, is released on Disney Plus. Also, SpongeBob spin-off series about Patrick Star has been announced, and also there's some news about Lola Bunny in the upcoming Space Jam sequel. You're listening to Aaron and Patricia on the 7th of March of 2021. So, Patricia, do you want to tell everybody what's going on the Old School Lane podcast?
So I have finally posted up the video that I've been hinting at over the past few weeks. So I have premiered a new show called Media Hall of Fame, where I take a look into stories discussing about the positives that's going on in the world of media, whether they be movies, TV shows, video games, comics, whatever. And this time around, I have talked about 4 different stories about how the fans became integral to their favorite animated shows. We've always hear a lot of negative news regarding about that the fans would be complaining or would be criticizing something that's either so petty or something that is not within their control, but they want to just lash it out anyway, one of which we're going to be talking about later in the show. So I decided to focus on the positive aspects, where I talk about 4 stories in which the fans of their favorite animated show became so passionate that they end up officially becoming a part of the shows themselves. So I didn't get a lot of views, which I'm really sad to see, but I did put a lot of work and heart into it, and I hope that you do check it out and see what I talked about.
Cool. Okay, then let's get into the news. So, the Senate passed a $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package plan through last night. So you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm not privy to the entire what's actually in the plan and who's getting what. So I mean, I don't know if you want to tell me more about what's going on.
Sure thing. So the Senate approved President Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief plan yesterday after a 24-hour debate, and the Senate was literally divided, where the votes were from 50 to 49. So only by one vote that we were able to get this. And the only reason why was because Republican Dan Sullivan from Alaska was not in the meeting because he was at a family funeral. So here is what it entails. So the package would be giving $1,400 direct payments. Individuals earning up to $75,000 and couples earning up to $150,000 will be receiving the full direct payment, but payments would phase out for individuals and couples who make more than $80,000 and $160,000, respectively. Federal unemployment benefits will be extended through September 6th at the current rate of $300 per week, and the first $10,200 of those benefited would be tax-free from households that earn about $150,000 or less. And that was one of the major debates that was going on during the meeting. So, yeah, for those who are complaining about, where's the 2,000? Well, we got the 600 a while ago. I mean, at least most of us did. I mean, I still haven't yet. But the 1,400 would eventually round it out to the 2,000.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I just think there was too much negotiated away, I think, and let's keep this in mind. This is the coronavirus has done enormous damage to the U.S. economy, and so, and also there's a lot of people who are kind of sitting around, not being able to do anything right now because they're unemployed because they lost their jobs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, dare I say, I'm not too sure. You can say, oh, hey, it's $1.9 trillion, but I mean, the average household is really only going to see about $1,400 of that. So it's on top of that as well, you got everyone down in Texas as well who are currently not only having to weather the economic and also the coronavirus effects, also they got the snowstorm as well, which is wreaked havoc on their communities, and also you got various other communities around the United States that also have their own difficulties as well. So the Democrats are no doubt going to milk this all the way to 2022 midterms. No doubt about that. Like, they say, oh, hey, we're the party that got it all done, and the Republicans were the ones who, got in the way and, stopped us from, doing this, that, and the other. But at the same time, I believe it was the parliamentarian. I believe who's like the permanent politician in there who seems to easily get ignored in certain things. Apparently, he made a recommendation about the 1400 not going to everybody, and everyone just kind of bowed down and agreed to what he said. Which would not have happened. Would not have happened if it would not have happened at any other house sitting, but apparently happened in this instance, which is kind of weird. Really?
Yeah, so for those who are wondering what we're referring to, so the Senate parliamentarian ruled that a plan to gradually increase the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour by 2025 doesn't fit with the rules that govern the budget bills in the Senate. And so that's when they decided to include the coronavirus relief bill.
Well, I'm sure he said other things in the past and no one gives a shit, so why does he give a shit now? I really don't understand.
I think that, like we talked about earlier, I think that the parties are really starting to feel the heat. Like, oh man, now we really need to do something, because if we don't, then we're going to be left in the dust. I mean, we talked about how a lot of the people left the Republican Party after Biden had won the election, and they saw what happened during Capitol Hill. So I think that they were like, oh wait, we have this power to help the people. I think we need to actually use the power to help the people.
Yeah, well, in a minute, for those who came away from this disappointed, I've said from the get-go, he's gonna basically, unless he's pushed into doing things the whole coronavirus he's gonna have to deal with, that's not gonna go away. That's gonna be a giant elephant in the Oval Office for for a considerable amount of time. So he's gonna be preoccupied with that, no doubt about that. But unless he's pushed to do other things, he's not gonna do them. So this is going to be America is in autopilot right now with Joe Biden, and with these Democrats as well, because there was various other Democrats who also didn't like particular things, including the minimum wage thing, which it's crazy because all these these aging dinosaurs that currently occupy the House and the Senate, when they were earning minimum wage, I don't know who it was, which politician was it who said that? Oh, well, back in my day, I was earning $6 an hour on minimum wage and stuff like that. Which if keep this in mind, this was in 1970. If you round up the number for inflation, that he was earning around about $38, $40 an hour in minimum wage. So $15. Is nothing compared to $40 an hour.
No, well, we're talking about education, housing, cars, insurance, retirement plan. All of that stuff was covered back then, where, a person can work at one job for about 40 something years, and they would have income so that they can be able to support their families. They can actually buy a house in a really nice neighborhood. They have a nice retirement plan, so they'll never have to worry about work again. Good health insurance for themselves and for their family. So yeah, I mean, we don't have that by today's standards. I mean, unless of course you have a really, really, really good job.
And our kids will have nothing.
Nope, absolutely nothing. No. And then people will be complaining about oh, these kids are self-entitled and lazy and they don't work hard or whatsoever.
compared to all the boomers that basically had money handed to them by grandma and grandpa. Go fuck yourself. Yeah. It's just that's what angers me about the whole boomer generation. It's not enough to say okay boomer. It's kind of okay boomer. You got a whole hell of a lot of money from from grandma and grandpa who basically built things out of nothing. And now here you are saying that kids today don't know how to cut it when the only valuable thing they probably have in their possession is probably their iPhone, compared to when these people had cars, houses, various other stuff that they probably wouldn't have had if their parents hadn't bailed them out at their particular time.
Yeah, for example, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of them back then, they probably asked their parents for a car for their 16th birthday. And nowadays, I mean, you're lucky if you're able to share a car with your family, let alone own one. I still have to share a car because I don't have the money to buy a car or to buy the insurance, or if the car breaks down, that's hundreds of dollars that I don't have. So yeah, and also a house, let alone a house.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's ridiculous. The bar that they expect this generation to climb to raise to is absolutely ridiculous, and they sit there and wonder why people make fun of them. They
Yeah,
really do.
exactly. I mean, they make fun of us all the time, saying, "When I was your age, I was able to do so much more. You're just not working hard enough." It's like, we're put in this large pedestal that we just can't follow, and then we're set out to be the failures, even though we've tried our very hardest to do so. I mean, the millennials have gone to school even more than the boomers and are able to get themselves an education that they wouldn't even dream of. But at the same time, we're wallowing in student loans and debt, and then we have to work on these jobs because we're overqualified, and there's just not a lot of jobs out there because of the status of the economy. And then we're just wondering, man, I'm such a failure. I failed to live up to my parents' expectations, and then we just feel really bad for ourselves. And
But
then,
then you realize where your parents were, and it's kind of like, fuck you. Like, you had it so easy. How on earth can you say to me that we're so badly struggling, we're so badly struggling right now when you had it pretty easy on the fast lane, you
yeah,
know?
like there's still a lot of us that are still either living at home or have to have roommates because rent is really, really expensive. And especially for like really tiny apartments. Like I saw this video of somebody posting up a vlog about an apartment that was like $3,000 a month, and it was like 800 square feet. Like, how are you going to be able to afford that with such little space to live in the first
Well, that's
place?
something. Here in London, they're here in the UK, they're creating they're turning 3 bedroom houses into six apartments.
Ugh.
They just don't care. It's just, oh yeah, these kids will put up with it. I mean, for how much longer?
Yeah.
Somewhere down the line, the back of this economy is going to be broken pretty severely, and there's going to be massive fallout because of it. And so, no doubt they'll have some other excuse, like they always do. But these politicians, pander to these people, and unfortunately, this is the situation that we've got. So, if you're struggling right now on a very small, in the gig economy, or if you're in a, basically you're flipping burgers, or if you're doing something that is really not, paying the amount of money it should be paying, and you can't go any further, and you're basically stuck in the same position for the foreseeable future, my heart really goes out to you. It really does, and it shouldn't be something that you should be going through at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Demand more, you know, like.
Absolutely.
Mhm. Moving on, our government has been trying to talk this down for so long, but you just hear from immigration lawyers, and you just hear from various other policy tanks and everything like that, and it is going to be a reality that unfortunately we're going to have to deal with, and that is that some countries are considering COVID-19 passports, even though it is pointed to health and ethical questions and everything like that. And so I'll
Yeah.
start off on this. Unfortunately, vaccine passports, and it's just going to be for international travel. It's going to be for everything. It's going to be going to you're going to your favorite restaurant. It's going to be going to basically anywhere where there's going to be a massive gathering taking place. It's going to happen at football stadiums. It's going to happen at various other places. And because a lot of businesses do not want to be in a situation where they have to shut down in order to, deal with another outbreak, which they're going to have to, go around and call people and tell them to self-isolate and tell them to get tests and things like that. It's a cost that I don't think they're going, businesses are not going to want to shoulder. So what are they going to do? They're going to basically, mitigate the idea of, try and stamp down the idea of that potentially happening. So the one thing that they're going to probably do is that they're going to be saying to people that have you had the vaccine or have you had a negative test in the last 72 hours, and that is going to be the way that they're going to have to go around that.
Yeah.
obviously to do that. And unfortunately, there may be, I don't like the idea. I don't think most people who are listening to this show like this idea, but unfortunately, it is going to be a reality that we're going to be confronted with, at least on a temporary basis, until finally that COVID-19 has come to a situation where basically we're at where with the AIDS and the HIV epidemics.
Mm-hmm.
Until we're at that point where it basically gets to a point where it becomes so minuscule that it ceases to be like a mass menace. That maybe then those restrictions will be loosened. But until then, what else do you do?
I
If you
mean, yeah, what else do you do? Now, I understand why a lot of people have issues with it. They say health wise, ethical wise, operational wise that this is not a very good idea because it just gives you such restrictions. But unfortunately, and we'll cover this in the next bit of news, people are still about a year after this happened are still not taking this seriously, and they don't want to risk the chance of having people over from another country or even people over in their business, and they just end up getting sick and then they'll have to shut their whole operation. Hundreds of thousands of businesses such as movie theaters, restaurants, theaters have been shut down because of the coronavirus. I mean, these are places that they need to have large quantities of people in order for them to function, in order for them to make money. And so they're going to need to have these passports showing that they are not sick, that they haven't had any cases of the coronavirus around them, like none of their family members or people that they were close to had the virus and they were surrounded by. So they want to be able to make sure that things are intact. And unfortunately, I don't like this either, but if there's going to be a reality where if we want to travel or if we want to go someplace and we want to be able to see people, then yeah, that's going to have to be the case where we have to prove to them saying, no, I'm not sick, I'm okay. So yeah, I just don't know what to say about this.
Well, unfortunately, I have plenty to say on it, but that's where we are at the minute. Until obviously the majority of people are going to get vaccinated, and we're at 75-80% of people, and it comes to a point where they're not going to be required anymore because we're just going to we can assume that this whole thing's been put by the wayside.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to get rid of these things, basically. So.
Yeah, and as of the recording of this podcast, we have reached the point in which we are vaccinating 2 million people a day. And according to Fauci, if we continue at this range, then we will be able to reach herd immunity by the end of the summer.
Yeah, and we're at the point where about 20 million people here in the UK have had the first jab, and about 1 million people have had the second. So
Okay.
we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's some places that won't be getting there, unfortunately, and that's going to include Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Montana, and Iowa, who are going to stop doing mandatory masks for starting next month. So.
Yeah, so I live in Alabama, as you guys know. So when I heard that the report is that there's not going to be any mandatory masks next month, this has gotten me very, very frightened. Like, let's start off with Texas. Texas is the second most populated state in the United States next to California. The fact that they are saying, oh, we don't have to worry about putting on masks anymore is frightening, to say the least. Like, absolutely frightening. The fact that they're going to be living off their normal routines, even though that we are nowhere close to having people walk around safely without masks. And Alabama, Mississippi, again, going through the same motion about like we're still not at that point in which we can be able to walk around freely. I mean, they're talking about we're going to reopen restaurants, we're going to reopen businesses, and we're going to just have it so where you don't have to go to your grocery store or whatever without having to put the mask on because I just don't know why. Like, especially here in Alabama, it is a very, very slow process of getting people to put on to get the vaccine. Like, I'm like currently, my parents are on a waiting list because they're not 65 yet, and when they get there, they still have to go through like thousands upon thousands of people who already signed up for this, and and the fact that they're saying, "Oh yeah, next month you're good to go. You don't have to worry about it." It's like you're going to get people around you even more sick, and cases are going to go skyrocketing again, and then we're going to have to go through another lockdown and more mandatory masks. So it's like, just wait a little bit longer.
Exactly, like they're doing this way too soon. Like they need to, somewhere down the line they are going to get to the point where this virus is going to be under control, but you're going to throw it all away by throwing out this mask mandate. And,
there's even people who are protesting about this. Like the people over in Boise, Idaho, they went over to their own Capitol building, and they put out a barrel, and they just threw their masks into the fire.
I just realized we skipped over that, didn't we? Actually, and
I mean,
something like you look at all those kids, and you look at that. It's like that is literally just like a visual representation of I blame the parents. It really is. Like, you wonder why people, grow up so stupid. And here you got these, so-called adults going around throwing masks in a barrel. And, I would understand if we're at the point where, we've got the vast majority of people vaccinated and now masks are unnecessary. I mean, if a bunch of right-wings want to go and just burn a bunch of masks because they're celebrating the fact that the virus, the pandemic is now over, then, all right, whatever. But we're still in the midst of all of this.
We are.
Right. Like, how can you be so stupid?
Yeah, like I understand that, there's been a lot less deaths and there's been a lot less cases going on in the hospitals, but that's because people are being responsible adults where they're wearing their masks, they're keeping their social distance, and some of them have gotten vaccinated. So it's not just because, for no reason. So the fact that they're burning their masks in a flaming barrel, and even kids are doing it, they're being encouraged to do this, is just absolutely sickening.
When does this start becoming child abuse? Like, when does it start becoming a point where you're putting your kids in danger because you're telling them that, oh, hey, this virus isn't going to, it's either, a hoax or it's like it's, not as serious as it should be. Like, you're putting your kids in immediate danger of, like, infecting other people and infecting yourselves. When does it start to become a point where, like, this is child abuse?
But Aaron, they're just doing it so that they can be able to stretch out their independence and not be controlled by the government.
Whatever. Go back to the, get off the internet and, go outside for once and not with a flaming barrel burning masks. It's these people are just ridiculous. And I'll tell you what, actually, I want to go something a bit further that kind of mix all of this into, the fact we've had so much opposition to getting coronavirus relief bills passed, the fact that we have these, these politicians, just doing all this. What's the point of the Republican Party anymore? What is the point of this party?
Well, I mean, as we've seen from our country, Aaron, that there's still a lot of people who believe in what the Republicans are doing. I mean, they believe in a conservative business goal-related plan. But
what does that mean?
What does it mean? It's the means is that there are a lot of people who still believe in those ideologies. I mean, half of our country literally
ideology,
believes in
though? What is it that what is the Republican Party message right now? And I tell you what, actually, I feel like I want to cover this before, obviously, we get into the whole Facebook thing. But 6 books that have been written by Dr. Seuss will be discontinued due to uncomfortable conversations on racism. And the Republican Party turn around and say, "Oh, this is cancel culture," and now Jim Jordan's wants a whole Senate hearing about the fucking it's like in their world, is there not like a virus going around? Is there not like an economic situation? Is there not like unemployed people? These people live in such such a bubble, and they have no sense of reality. And it just and this whole Republican Party is poisoned with all of this now. And it's all about going around this golden statue of Trump, and it's all about it's never about any sensible political philosophy or policy or anything like that. Now they are basically just a troll party. That's all they are. They are not there to help you in any stretch of the imagination. They are there to help themselves and their wealthy donors who, for whatever reason, keeps pouring money into them because obviously of deregulation and shit like that. You know.
Yeah, and if you're wondering what are the 6 books, well, they are And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street, If I Ran the Zoo, McElligot's Pool, On Beyond Zebra, Scrambled Eggs Super, and The Cat's Quizzler. Which it's actually funny because one of the Republican senators, I think that was who it was, I'm not sure, but he was actually talking about like, oh, we don't believe in canceling Dr. Seuss, and he read Green Eggs and Ham. Green Eggs and Ham wasn't one of the books that was banned.
It wasn't. Tell you what, actually, we got a chance to do another top 16. So I think we'll go through that. So Family Minded did ranked from worst to best to the top 16 Dr. Seuss books. So do you want to go through them and see if we agree with it or not?
Oh, this ought to be very interesting considering I haven't read most of them.
Okay, then. So let's have a look. So I'm trying to think how this works. So give me 1 second. Every Seuss fan has their own personal favorite. Here are the 16 ranks from worst to best. Oh, I see. So it's this. We're starting off with the worst, and then we're going to the best one. And this is from Dr. Seuss books on Goodreads. So
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, number 16, and this apparently is the worst. So this is Horton Hatches the Egg.
Okay, that is actually one of the very few that I have read. It's a continuation of Horton Hears a Who, where Horton is told by this bird to help hatch its egg because it's busy and is off doing other things. And so Horton, being very dedicated, as we saw in Horton Hears a Who, where he's trying to save the Who's from being, crushed or being swept away. So he's just laying on this egg, and then the mother comes back just when it's about to hatch and saying like, "Oh, this is my egg, and you have to go away." Even though that Horton had dedicated its entire time to sitting on this egg, making sure that it hatches, and when the egg hatches, it turns into an elephant bird. I know, how does
Alright.
that work? I don't know, but yeah, that's really weird. But
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, definitely not as memorable as Horton Hears a Who.
Okay. Number 15 is And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street.
And that was one of the books that was banned because of the
So
racist imagery.
that's right now. That's one of the worst books that's currently in this
What is
list.
what is our description on it?
Let's have a look. So, published in 1937, Dr. Seuss's first children's book, and I think I saw it on Mulberry Street, remains one of the most popular of all time. Despite the controversy around the book's illustration stereotyping Chinese culture, the book can still teach younger generations about the power of imagination.
Okay.
Okay, but that's currently one of the worst according to them. So,
Interesting.
okay. All right. Number 14 is Yertle, the Turtle, and Other Stories.
Oh, I am familiar with Yertle the Turtle. I think this was supposed to be like an allegory on dictatorship because I think that this came around the same time when the Nazi Party was going about. So I think it was about like I think that was going into that kind of direction, which was not too surprising because Dr. Seuss did a lot of war propaganda drawings and documentaries. So
Yeah.
I think that's what it was about.
He was the he was actually one of the cartoonists, like decades before. Donald Trump's like saying America first, actually warning us of that problem.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Number 13 is Dr. Seuss's ABC, an amazing alphabet book.
I mean, it's an alphabet book. I mean, it's not going to be as creative or as like whimsical compared to his other well-known books, so it's not too much of a surprise.
Okay. Number 12 is Hop on Pop.
Haven't read it.
Okay, then. This one says, Hop on Pop is the simplest for youngsters to use. It was a hit when it was first released in 1963 and remains a firm Dr. Seuss favors. The monosyllabic rhymes and brilliant illustrations on perfect harmony. Doesn't necessarily say what it's about.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll tell you. We'll go to the next one. Okay, number 11 is Fox in Socks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just from what I remember, it's about a fox who wears socks, and there's a lot of other rhymes involving with like animals and other clothing. So, okay.
Cool. Number 10 is The Cat in the Hat Comes Back.
Yes, that is the continuation of the original Cat in the Hat book, where the Cat in the Hat does return and he interacts with the kids again, and they go through a lot of wacky situations. So yeah, a lot of the same pretty much from the original. So not much to say about it.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty glad that that Mike Myers movie didn't make it didn't make any.
Oh
any
man,
I really don't want to see that again.
I don't want to see that again. Oh, if you know what, if the movie would have done better, we would have instantly gotten another sequel.
Yeah. Okay, Ugh. Number 9, the Foot Book, Dr. Seuss's Wacky World of Opposites.
I have heard about it. It's been a long time since I've read it, though. The Wacky World of Opposites, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 8 is The Sneetches and Other Stories.
Ooh, the Sneetches. That's another one right there where it does go into a bit of an allegory. I think the Sneetches are the birds that some of them have the stars and some of them don't.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's what it is.
All right.
But yeah,
So go on.
I think I remember that it was basically where some of them felt like they were special because they have the stars, and then others that didn't have the stars, they felt that they weren't as special, and so there was like this argument about like which of the Sneetches are the best ones. So yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Number 7 is Horton Hears a Who.
Yep, very well-known, iconic Dr. Seuss book. Aaron and I, we actually did see the movie not too long ago for the very first time.
Yeah, and I thought it was good. I didn't think it was I didn't think it was brilliant, but I thought it was pretty engaging. I'll definitely tell you that.
I mean, definitely one of the better movies from Blue Sky Studios. So
Yeah.
we'll get to that at some
Eventually.
point.
Yeah. Number 6 is the Lorax.
I mean, the Lorax, of course. I mean, a very iconic
I'm very
book. I mean,
surprised. I would have thought it would have been like in the top 5 at least. But that's,
yeah, I'm surprised too. I mean, I guess maybe the environmental message may be a little bit too uncomfortable for younger kids, but it's really important considering that the book came out in around the 1970s, around the time
it's
in
going to
which
go for
when
them now. I mean, like we're in the era of Greta Thunberg. You know, like it's and also the kids are learning a lot more about the environment in schools now than we ever did.
that's very true. You're right. I mean, especially with the books and even the animated special being like a mandatory thing to have in classrooms so that you can be able to learn about the environment. I literally saw the Lorax special when I was in high school, where we were talking about environmental issues and how to take care of our environment, and so I think that it's still a staple for a lot of people because, I mean, it talks about the environment in a way that kids can be able to understand. And uh, lest we forget about the Illumination movie that came out of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. Number 5. Oh, the places you'll go.
Very, very iconic Dr. Seuss book. All the places that you can go, all the variations of the places that are really unique to Dr. Seuss with his whimsical rhyming. So, yeah, very classic book.
Hmm. Number 4. How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Of course. I mean, it has to be on this list. It's a staple around the holidays where I mean, at least everybody would know about somebody who acts like a Grinch, where they just don't really care about Christmas that much. And so it's right up there with like A Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life and The Night Before Christmas as like one of the staples to read or even watch around the holidays if you're one of those people who have seen the 60s special or those who have seen the 2000 Jim Carrey movie or even the more recent one that came out in 2018 by Illumination by Benedict Cumberbatch. So definitely a major staple and one of the more famous Dr. Seuss characters.
Okay. Number 3 is one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish.
Of course, I mean that's definitely a book a lot of people remember. I even knew somebody who learned how to read thanks to that book.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Simpsons episode named after this book?
Yes, there was.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2 is the Cat in the Hat.
Of course, the Cat in the Hat is probably the most famous of the Dr. Seuss characters. Very whimsical, very weird. He has this odd-looking machine thing one, thing two, and the specials of the kids programs that used to air around the 90s. There was even the Universal Studios attractions. And the movie. Let's not go over that.
Yeah. And the number 1 book, which I believe has inspired episodes from Johnny Bravo and also has been parodied in various other cartoon shows, is Green Eggs and Ham.
Yep, and also has a Netflix animated series, which I hear is really, really good, considering on what the subject is. So, I mean, I personally would have had maybe like Cat in the Hat as like number 1, but Green Eggs and Ham is also a major contender.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, out of all the 16 that's in this, worst to best, I mean, like, did any of the books that are now out of print actually make it into this list, besides one?
No.
No. So, once again, you got Republican politicians jumping up and down about books that barely anybody cares about.
Here's the thing. I understand that a lot of people may be a little bit sensitive to maybe the depictions of the characters, the way they were drawn, or how we've come so far with proper representation. And I understand that some people would be like saying, this is not acceptable for my kids, but we have to deal with a lot more worse issues like unemployment and the coronavirus cases, threats of war, natural disasters, and the fact that people are making such a big deal about like children's books of all things. It's like you have your priorities wrong.
Like not just children's books that barely anybody read. From the looks of
exactly.
Things. Like,
yeah, I mean, we just went through the top 16, and only one of them was in it, and it was on the worst list.
Exactly, on the worst scale. So, I mean, again, and on top of that as well, this was not a decision made by a government organization. This was Dr. Seuss's Dr. Seuss's estate itself that decided not to publish these things anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, what's the big deal? Like, it's a private company making a private enterprise decision. Why do you need a public hearing over this?
You shouldn't. I mean, it's not that much of a big deal. I mean, if they personally feel that these books are not right to have published anymore, they have a reason why. And even some people are like purchasing books from like used bookstores and then selling them on eBay for like $900.
Yes.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Exactly. It really is. And the only thing I could think of this, I guarantee you, this is probably in retaliation for something. I know we didn't bring this up in the show, but apparently the Democrats committee on, I think it was their media committee, I think it is, they wrote to every single cable provider asking for a ethical explanation of why they still air Fox News, Newsmax, and One American News Network. I think there's probably in retaliation for that. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, which everyone was like crying up and down, saying, "Oh, hey, this is freedom of speech." But if you remember when we played Sacha Baron Cohen's speech on the show?
Yes.
Yeah, and he said, freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. The Democrats are not asking for cable companies to shut down Fox News and One American News Network and Newsmax. They're not asking for that at all. They're basically asking them, why is it that they are still, airing these TV channels where they're known to have either outright lied in some cases or just to spread complete and utter propaganda.
And that's actually a great way to go into our next segment. So Facebook had decided that they are going to temporarily remove the bans of political ads, even though that the reason why it was shut down in the first place was because that a lot of the political ads were spreading lies.
Exactly. Here's the thing about this. I don't have a problem with social media companies, obviously airing ads from organizations that want to, obviously pay them and to air ads. I don't have a problem with that as well, but there should be a judgment call made on ads that are brutally dishonest, and they should not be basically spreading misinformation in this way. Just because, and this is the thing that came out as well. There was a video that was released by TLDR News. I can't remember. I think it was TLDR UK News, I think it was, and they did a whole segment where they showed the same article shown in local newspapers, up and down the country, and the same people kept coming up over and over again, and it was so weird. Why would the same local newspapers be showing the same news story with the same people in it? And it turns out that these news articles were being sponsored by the UK government about Brexit. So, they were giving, the false impression that Brexit was being an overall success by buying ad places in local newspaper and putting in basically what is government propaganda about Brexit. And this is basically what Facebook are planning to do once again here. So they're going to be allowing political organizations to take out ads in their on their social media platforms without really fully vetting it.
Right.
So I would be interested to hear if Facebook is actually going to be looking at these ads and saying, oh, hey, we should be putting out, actually making a judgment call whether they think, they should be putting this out as a responsible, content provider. Because, why, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense either.
It really doesn't, because, we've seen how dangerous, politics on Facebook has become. I effectively left Facebook because I couldn't take all the misinformation that was being spread around by people. So I left.
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. And so,
Yeah.
so I left that, and, funnily enough, I've had, people talk about how Twitter is basically just, people sounding off on politics, but I've never had much of a problem there, pretty much since I've been there, because I know what I'm expecting for. But, when you have with people you thought you were very close with, all of a sudden spreading, information that, QAnon, and, that whole misinformation bullshit that was going on around Facebook, I couldn't take it anymore, and I left.
Yeah.
So
and the fact that people are going to be saying, First Amendment, freedom of speech, and all that kind of stuff. It's like there's a limit. You have to understand that there is a limit to spreading false information that a lot of people seem to overlook. And I'm just hoping that maybe they would maybe get some PR to come together and say, hey, well, now that we're going to be reopening these political ads on Facebook again, we need to actually double check, triple check everything to make sure that the information that they're saying is correct.
Yeah,
If not, then we're going to end up like the same way all over again.
Exactly. You shouldn't be spreading this around millions of people if you know it's not going to be if it's factually incorrect. And this is the criticism of Facebook that's been going on for a while. It's been such a spreader of misinformation, and it looks to me like no one's doing anything about it. Until people get really angry about it, and then all of a sudden Facebook shuts it down. Or until it gets if it goes too far, and then all of a sudden they got people smashing down the doors of the Capitol building. Exactly. So, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move away from that. I want to talk about something a bit more. That isn't going to be me. I'll tell you actually. Can we get this one out of the way first? Because I feel like I want to just put this out here. So TCM is taking the name of cancel culture, and so they're going to be doing a new series devoted to problematic movie classics.
Yeah, so for those who don't know what TCM is, so TCM stands for Turner Classic Movies, where they would have like a group of movie historians talking about the cultural significance on movies. And just like what we were talking about with the whole Dr. Seuss thing, where they're planning on banning, these books or like stopping the publication, there's a lot of arguments that, some of the movies that came out around maybe from the 20s to all the way through the 1960s, they are seen pretty negatively because of their portrayals of minorities and women and certain issues. And so there's going to be a new series called Reframed: Classic Films in the Rearview Mirror, where there will be 5 hosts that will be taking a look into movies such as Gone with the Wind, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Breakfast at Tiffany's, The Searchers, and Psycho. So Ben Mankiewicz, Dave Karger, Alicia Malone, Eddie Muller, and Jacqueline Stewart are going to be taking a look at these movies that nowadays have been considered pretty controversial and discussing about why and if it should be.
Yeah. So, here's the thing about TCM, actually, some of the stuff they actually do is pretty fun, I remember when, on the anniversary of the Planet of the Apes, they actually did a sit-down interview with Dr. Zayas, which I thought was, was pretty good. And, actually, I think, is the original actor, he still plays Dr. Zayas, on stage and stuff like that? If I recall.
Well, we're talking about Roddy McDowall. He was a very well-known actor who was portrayed on theater and other movies, but he's been, he passed away back in the 90s, I think. But yeah, he was very well known for being an aspired theater actor, as well as knowing for being a well-known actor with not just Planet of the Apes, but also Ben Knobs and Broomsticks and The Greatest Story Ever Told, and even a few animated series. He played as a character in Pinky and the Brain at one point, and he also did Batman the Animated Series and Gargoyles, and he even did A Bug's Life, if you can believe it. So yeah. He was a really well-known, renowned actor.
Mm-hmm. So in regards to, TCM doing this, the fact that they're going to be doing a whole series and pointing to everyone saying, yeah, this is why we don't air this anymore. It's that is, I think it's a very good move, I think, on TCM's part, at least in my opinion. So
especially since Gone with the Wind, especially because that movie has gotten a ton of controversy over the years, like, the treatment of the actors who, played as the slaves, as well as, just, I mean, it took place like around the Civil War. So I can understand where they were coming from with that. But still, I mean, it's still not considered politically correct by today's standards.
Do you think they'll cover Song of the South?
Oh, that would be really interesting for them to talk about.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, mind you, it's not a Turner movie, and it's a Disney property as well. So whether they actually be allowed to do that, I don't know. But
I don't know either.
actually, this might be a really stupid question, but I never really had a chance to delve into the darker alleyways of Disney Plus. Song of the South's not there, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay, just wanted to make sure. But
But here's the thing that I want to bring up. Just you just brought it up perfectly. There's a lot of disclaimers that are being put up into their Disney movies, and even the Muppet Show just recently, where they would say, like, disclaimer: the following portrayals of these characters were not considered like proper by today's standards, like, viewer discretion advised. It's very similar to what Warner Brothers did with their classic cartoons when they released it on DVD, where they were talking about, like, disclaimer: a lot of the stuff that is being portrayed were like stereotypes that were showcased at the time, but it wasn't good then and it's not good now. So yeah, a lot of them are definitely paying attention to the fact that some of the stuff and some of the things that they did portray, like characters or dilemmas or situations, are not up to today's standards, and so they're paying attention.
Yeah, but obviously that's not cancelling, is it? Obviously, it's like
No.
they basically just saying, you might see something here which was of its time, but obviously isn't now.
Right.
There's that, but there's another thing as well, which is well, I've heard about the whole Muppets thing. I mean, obviously there's every single episode right now on, I believe, of the Muppets is currently up on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think that maybe
except for two, which one involves an actor who was charged for downloading child pornography, and then I think there was another actor who did something really daft as well. And I think so. Those are the only two episodes that haven't aired. But
okay.
So they have justifications, I think, in that regard. But
Sure.
I mean, but in regards to the whole Muppets, I mean, all they do is just put a bunch of text in in the beginning of the episode, and then it just starts.
Yeah.
So it's I really want to actually. I'll watch the Muppets at some point. I really want to watch the John Cleese episode again. The John Cleese episode, I think, is my favorite. I think.
Yeah.
Out of a lot of them.
And you know what? I think there's a fine line between, okay, we can't show this anymore, let's just cancel it, and putting in a disclaimer saying the stuff that we're showing was not appropriate. It's like, if you hide it away from people, then they're never going to learn that stuff was considered unacceptable. So you need to show this stuff to people. That way they know that the stuff that they are showing was wrong, and it was wrong, and it still is wrong, and people are now acknowledging it. So you can't just hide it away and pretend it didn't exist, because it did exist. I mean, it still exists, unfortunately, where we still have, racism, we still have minorities not treated well in media, we still have situations in which, like, topics are not covered correctly. I mean, that's the sad part of it. But I think that us as a society is starting to become more self-aware, and we're starting to improve on how we portray things. Like, it used to be a time in which, when, people who were of the LGBTQ community were either ostracized or they completely hid it, saying, oh, no. They weren't a gay couple, they were cousins. But now I think that we have, proper representation of that nowadays, even with animation. And as for, like, minorities, a lot, I mean, even though we still have a long way to go with proper, representation of minorities and everything, but it's still a lot better than what we gotten a long time ago, especially with the case of white people playing as minorities. It's like, that's not very acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about this. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, and if you're like one of those free speech absolutionists, I mean, you're not going to get your way. Unfortunately, there's going to be TV companies out there who just have stuff in their archive. It's like, no, we're not showing this to anybody at all. For example, in the WWE, you're never going to see the moment when Owen Hart lost his life. In that, when he fell to his death. You're not going to see that. And then, obviously, there's the infamous Heil Honey, I'm Home TV sitcom.
God.
Like, like there was like that aired on on British satellite broadcasting. So I mean, like that's you're never gonna see that again.
Nope.
Unless and there's just unfortunately, whether you like it or not, there's like some really terrible stuff there that's been put in front of a camera and is pretty much. On top of that as well, like there's that whole meme about that cat that was set on fire in that cage. Like and that was scrubbed from the internet. You're never gonna see that again. Like, unfortunately, people, there is justification for some companies to say, yeah, that's going way too far. We ain't doing this shit no more. And like,
No.
just stop being that like, it's like kind of like having that best friend in high school, like who saw like the worst of you, and like now you're like in your 30s and you have like 3 or 4 children, and it's kind of like dude, that was like so many years ago, and we're not going back there again. I'm a responsible adult now with responsibilities now. Like, just leave the past in the past and let's just move on with the future, please.
Yeah, please. I don't want to be that 16-year-old kid who, would go to the club until like 3 o'clock in the morning and do a bunch of shots. It's like, no, I actually have to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night because I need to wake up early in the morning so I can go to work and being able to pay my bills and take care of my family.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that, actually I'm just looking at the Heil Honey, I'm Home Wikipedia page, and I just love the fact that there's, a whole section saying controversy. It's like, you don't see this, you need a whole section for, like, controversy. It's a freaking TV show about Adolf Hitler living next door to Jewish people. Like, oh my god.
Oh.
Wikipedia is not like it's like you can read between the lines of why this is controversial. I mean, you don't need a whole section on it.
The title alone is controversial.
I know, exactly.
All right, moving on.
Anyway, this is your title, Thoughts on Paramount Plus. Now, as far as I'm aware, I mean, do we have Paramount Plus in here in the UK? I don't think I've actually seen it yet. I don't think.
I actually don't know. So for those who don't know, Paramount Plus is the rebranded streaming service of CBS All Access, because as you guys heard from our discussion of the aftermath of Hey Arnold the Jungle movie, that Viacom and CBS have merged. And so because they have merged, a lot of their properties are now consolidated into one place. And so Paramount Plus is the result of that. So in addition to a lot of shows from MTV, CBS, Nickelodeon, and a lot of other places. So that's why they decided to consolidate it into a new streaming service called Paramount Plus. And they're going to be releasing some exclusive stuff over there, just like you would with any streaming service that wants to get a gimmick so that they can be able to have subscribers. So that's why when it comes to, the big announcement, I mean, people were like saying, oh, now we have this huge rebranding, but there's a lot of reports saying, yeah, that's good, but it's not Netflix and Disney Plus. Why should I even get it?
Yeah, I mean, like, the only way I could probably see them, like, making this take off is, like, they got to do something different from, like, all the other streaming sites. Like, like, I'm just looking at their lineup. So you got Paramount Plus Originals. You've got, you obviously have access to CBS. You have access to Nickelodeon. You have access to, Comedy Central, MTV, and BET. But, what are you doing different? I mean, obviously it's different content, but,
Yes.
you can easily get that type of, content from being a subscriber to Netflix or being a subscriber to Disney Plus or being a subscriber to Hulu. So, like, you're gonna... My biggest fear is that, it's gonna be another streaming service that's gonna get lost in the shuffle.
I mean, we have too much of it. There's Amazon Prime, there's Hulu, there's Netflix, there's Disney Plus, and there's Peacock. There's just too many of them. I mean, other than a lot of the stuff, like, you can be able to watch Star Trek over there. You can be able to watch a lot of the Comedy Central programs over there. You can watch sports over there. You can watch Nickelodeon over there. But there has to be like something that really draws you in to say, I want to subscribe to that. When Netflix started,
I was just thinking about this actually. I mean, tell me if this is a good idea or a bad idea or not. But what if they just decided to get into like smart TVs and laptops, and like you got someone who spends their entire day in bed with their laptop just watching box sets. And then you got like someone who what's spending time watching a smart TV. What if Paramount Plus went and said, okay, if you buy this TV and you buy this laptop, we'll give you 12 months free, or like something stupid like that.
Sure.
They make the money from obviously doing the promotion with the technology companies, but and also you basically get, hey, you get all this stuff when you get your new TV and when you get your new laptop, and then obviously they can then recuperate the cost when they want to become, a regular subscriber, you know.
I mean,
So
currently, from what I've seen, there's a 25% discount for students, which, I mean, it is very similar to like in Hulu, in which I have a discount as a student, and I can be able to not only get Hulu, but I can get Spotify as well, and I can pay the same price. So not only do I have a streaming service for my shows and movies, but I have a streaming service for music as well, and I use Spotify a lot. I've been loving Spotify. I used to go to Pandora, but then my sister told me, no, I mean, Spotify is way better. And I listen to my podcast over there. I listen to my music over there. And it's, the deal that I get, as a Hulu subscriber, as a student, is fantastic. So
hashtag not
Paramount
sponsored,
Plus,
by the way. We're not paid to basically say this.
yes,
We
yes,
literally have Spotify accounts, and this is our experiences of it. So
yes, this is our personal experience. So hashtag not a sponsor. So yes, Paramount Plus. I mean, like you were saying before, like what if they have another thing to lure in the customer, saying, okay, we know that you have Disney Plus, we know that you have Netflix, we know that you have Amazon Prime, we know that you have Hulu, but here's something that we have that the other streaming services don't have, and we can give you this additional service as well. So I think they really need to do that, because otherwise they're going to get lost in the shuffle. I mean, unless, of course, if you really want to get that streaming service so you can watch Star Trek, or you can watch football, or you can watch something from Comedy Central or MTV or Nickelodeon.
I'm just looking at this on here, like on the compatible devices for Paramount Plus. I mean, they're saying that the Chromecast can do it, but apparently not Panasonic TVs.
Huh.
Which
that's very weird.
That is weird. Yeah, they need to correct that. I mean, obviously it's available like on various basic, stuff like, I'm trying to think. It's available on most models of Roku. Well, most models isn't good. If people see, I guarantee you, there's going to be people who have like, very old like variations of Rokus, and they're going to want to watch, Paramount Plus on that, I probably imagine. And I mean, so it is somewhat readily available, but it's like it's not enough just to be available here, there, and some places. You have to be available everywhere, pretty much, to be successful, at least in my opinion. So. But you know what? It's only just released. Let's give it a shot, and let's just see how far it goes, and let's just see if it does do anything different from various other, streaming companies. And
we'll see.
If it does, then great, it'll survive. But if it doesn't, then it's gonna have a problem.
Yeah, it's gonna end up the same way as Quibi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Quibi. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's gonna end up the same way as Quibi.
Okay. Let's move on. So Disney's newest animated film, Raya and the Last Dragon, has been released on Disney Plus for a 30. I think it's 30. Is it renting for like $30?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're not seeing it yet. So I don't know what we're gonna think of it yet. But I don't know how to feel about this. It's they're releasing in theaters as well. Did they say? Raya and the Last Dragon?
Yes, they have released it in theaters.
Yeah. So but once we get around to watching it, I guess we'll tell you what we think of it. But
yeah. And this is the same thing that they did with Mulan, in which they released it for like $30 for a few months, and then it was available for free, a little bit later on, where people were able to watch it, and that's when they gave their full opinions on it. So they're trying to get themselves back on the game, because I don't know if you heard the news, Aaron, but the Disney stores have shut down. Like they shut down 20% of their Disney stores, and I think this is them trying to recuperate, whatever money that they're having behind. Because I mean, we already talked last week about that. Disneyland is going to be opening up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, unfortunately, this is going to be a problem, I think, for various other, what we refer to here in the UK as the high street. A lot of these chain stores and a lot of even the mom and pop stores are going to really struggle, because obviously unless they're going to adapt to online service, they're just not going to survive. So and also the Disney store Disney's probably looking at the Disney stores probably themselves and think, well, if we can just sell this stuff online, why do we need the Disney stores?
Right.
So I guarantee you, I think we're going to get to a point where the Disney stores, I think, will basically just be in tourist traps. I think you won't see them on your general high street. I mean, like there's a reason for the Disney Store to exist in what we call the Trafford Centre in the Unto Trafford Centre. There's a reason for it to exist because it's before the pandemic, it was obviously being planned to be like a place where it's a tourist attraction for people to go shop and like do things and that. So that was the there's a reason to kind of like be there for the Disney Store to exist over there. But if it's in your general where you go to get your bread and milk and things like that, I mean, a lot of those people, I could probably imagine, they're probably just going to say, oh, I'll just buy it online. So, unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me that some of these Disney stores that are, located in kind of, general vicinities are probably going to disappear, but, when they put them, say, for example, in New York City, or, when they put them in, places where people are going to be, and tourists are going to be there, and they're just going to want to shop for the novelty, those are the Disney stores that are going to survive, but I think the general ones, I don't think so. I think they're gone. Yeah. Okay. We'll let you know about the Free and the Last Dragon when we've actually seen it.
Yeah, so. Sorry, we can't talk about it because I'm not willing to pay $30 to go see it right now.
I'll tell you what, I'm just looking at the reviews now. 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, that's good. That's really good to hear.
So it's I'm interested to see when we finally see what it's going to be. But tell you what, well, let's move to something that I don't want to see, and that is we made jokes about this many years ago, and now we've got confirmation that this is going to finally happen. SpongeBob SquarePants' Patrick Star is going to be given his own show.
Yep, he sure is, and they just announced it yesterday. So the fact that Patrick is going to be having his own spin-off series, and it's going to be featuring his family, where it's his parents, his sister, and I think his grandpa and another family member. So it's going to be about him. And okay, first of all, the parents are not the same parents that we saw in the episode I'm With Stupid. And his sister is not the same sister that we saw in Big Sister Sam. They're completely different designs. So the fact that a lot of people have been complaining about it, I mean, first of all, I can understand people complaining about the parents because, I'm With Stupid is one of the more famous season 2 or season 3 episodes where they thought it was really funny where Patrick was hanging around with a group of people that claimed to be his parents and then they were not in the end. And so that was actually one of the more funnier gags. But again, it was just like a gag thing. And that episode came out almost 20 years ago. So I don't think that a lot of kids would even care about it. And the less said about Big Sister Sam, the better. That episode wasn't even good to begin with. So, but I think the main issue is that, Patrick Star is getting his own spin-off series. I don't think of him as like a character that needs to be really focused on.
Yeah, I just don't get it. He was basically SpongeBob SquarePants' friend and neighbor. Yep. He was there just kind of interacting in the madness of the SpongeBob SquarePants world. And also if you watch the earlier episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants, you would not look at Patrick and say, yeah, let's base a show around him. He became an asshole, in the worst of seasons as well.
He sure did.
Yeah, exactly. So, something, I'm trying to find the tweet that I put out because I'm getting, the Cleveland show and Patrick Sheen vibes all mixing together.
Oh, Planet Sheen vibes, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
no.
It's I just get this whole, this is not going to be good. Where are they putting it on as well? Is this going to be a Paramount Plus exclusive, or is...
Yes, it is.
It is.
It is going to be a Paramount Plus exclusive, as well as Camp Coral, which is a Paramount Plus exclusive. And Sponge Out of Water. Sponge on the Run. I forget the titles. Yeah, Sponge on the Run, which is the third SpongeBob movie that came out last year, but only aired in certain countries. And now we finally have it. And now it's up on Paramount Plus. So, yeah, they're really starting to push this as its own franchise. You have the movies, you have already the original series, and now you have 2 spin-off series, and they're planning on another one. They're going to have one on Squidward next.
Why would you have a show on Squidward? Unless you're going to do something really adult with it.
I don't know. I mean, I think that Nickelodeon. I think we said this last week. Nickelodeon is trying to find its own franchise that they can be able to milk, just like Disney's doing.
Yeah. No, this is the wrong way to go about it. You don't just do spin-off shows like your most successful shows, and just and expect one of them just to land. Like, the reason why Nickelodeon is in the situation it's in right now is because you can only name one good show, and that's SpongeBob SquarePants. Or at least, you could name one good show, and that was SpongeBob SquarePants. And they've put all their eggs into one basket, and now they're basically expecting, the same egg to, do all this other stuff, and just, you've got the Loud House up and coming. I mean, obviously you got the Casa Grandes. I get that. But, on top of that as well, you need more than just, 2 shows for everyone to kind of, get themselves around on. This is the wrong direction to go in. I think,
this is out of all the shows to do spin-offs on, SpongeBob
imagine
is
this
not
ends up being Father of the Pride, and Patrick Star isn't a strong enough character to kind of base the show around, so they end up having to bring in Sandy and SpongeBob, for odd episodes just to kind of keep eyeballs on the screen. They had to bring in Donkey, in Father of the Pride.
Oh my God, this is going to be Joni Loves Chachi all over again, in which they actually had to bring in the Fonz, and they had to bring in other characters from Happy Days so that people would be able to tune in and watch.
Yeah, I don't see this being successful. I'm sorry. I just think it's going to be once again we got more SpongeBob SquarePants. That's over that as well. They're using this to just try and get, Paramount Plus subscriptions? Fuck off. I ain't doing that. I already had enough problems with, SpongeBob SquarePants becoming stale as well. Now you're going to give me more SpongeBob SquarePants, except without SpongeBob SquarePants with Patrick Star? I would take the Patakis over this. Even though we know where the Patakis would go in regards to, the Hey Arnold story. I would take that, way over, Patrick Star.
I mean, we've had our fair share of spin-off series, and you have to do something unique and different in order for them to stand out. For example, Frasier is a spin-off series off of Cheers. Xena Warrior Princess is a spin-off series of Hercules' Legendary Journeys. Angel is a spin-off series on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Shows such as there's a lot of others examples that I want to, talk about, but I don't have the time for. But they did something different. They featured, characters that were around occasionally, but then they were interesting enough to have their own lives that separated from the main characters. So you have to do that while at the same time be really compelling for people to tune into. You can't just, have a character who is beloved by a lot of people and then be like, oh, he's popular enough to have a spin-off series. Let's put him in here. And, maybe occasionally throw in characters that a lot of people know of to kind of connect everything together. It's you're going to end up like Planet Sheen, and nobody wants to end up like Planet Sheen. You're going to end up like the Cleveland Show, and nobody wants to end up like the Cleveland Show.
Yeah, my name is Patrick Star. This show is not that good.
This is the only way we can stay relevant.
Say what, babe. Shall I do a wager with you?
Sure.
And then we'll pick it up when the show finally gets cancelled. How many seasons do you think he'll go for?
Camp Coral or the Patrick Star Show?
The Patrick Star Show.
2.
I'll say 3.
Okay.
So you think it's going to get cancelled in 2 seasons? I think it's going to get cancelled in 3.
All right then, sounds good.
At this point, I have no idea what Camp Coral's going to do. So
I have no idea either.
Yeah. So okay, there we go.
Okay.
And final. So go on.
I was going to say that we actually missed a report. We were going to talk about the Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Orlando.
Did we? I do apologize, everybody. Is my eyesight going?
Yeah, it was after the Dr. Seuss, but before the TCM cancel culture argument.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, because I remember now. I do apologize. We skipped over that because I wanted to get the TCM one out of the way, and then we just got carried away with that. So I do apologize, everybody. So
don't worry about it. It's okay.
Yeah, okay. Right. Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Orlando has been delayed. Until 2025. I mean, it's a pretty safe thing to do. I mean, the reason why the one in Japan is doing so well is obviously because they got a better control over the coronavirus there at the moment.
They're burning their masks in barrels.
No, exactly. They're not doing that. So obviously there's thought of like them opening Super Nintendo World, and also it's Super Nintendo World in Japan. Of course, people are going to go to it, so of course it's going to be successful. But I mean, in regards to America, I think I think they're playing it safe. And I think they're saying, okay, let's give it until 2025. No doubt by 2025. I think you'll have a phenomenal debut. I think by that time. So so as far as I'm concerned, it's a good move by Nintendo to do. Just put it off until it's probably ready to be released, and then after that, you can always go from there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I am just as disappointed as all of you guys that we are not able to have Universal Studios Orlando out because, I mean, if it wasn't for this pandemic, then yes, I would go there in a heartbeat if it were to open. Originally, it was supposed to open in 2023, but because they want to keep themselves safe and knowing